Michigan, Dakota, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Wisconsin for a total of 308 chapters. Let's hear from the first of our two finalists in Division 3.
From Indian Hills Community College in Minnesota, Division 3 International Vice President candidate, Dominique Daly.
Power can be visible and invisible. Superman demonstrates a lot of visible strengths, but it is the invisible power of kryptonite that holds the true power. Invisible disabilities may not be immediately apparent and include people who suffer from anxiety, bipolar, depression, PTSD, learning disabilities, and many more. Those disabilities have power too. According to the 2012 graduate paper, Invisible Disabilities, Stigma and Belonging, 19 million Americans fall into the category of the invisibly disabled. It affects many of us. In the world of invisible disabilities, both rights and responsibilities work to form a dynamic duo. We must use our superpowers to shape the global perspective of invisible disabilities in schools and workplaces around the world. According to an article in the October 17, 2011 USA Today, 86% of the nation's 2- and 4-year colleges enroll students with learning disabilities. These students have the right to not be discriminated against and receive reasonable accommodations. Upholding that right can be easier said than done. Reported in the Journal of College and University Student Housing in 2013, social oppression discourages requests for accommodation when there is fear of discrimination. As students, we are all familiar with the challenges and stress of an everyday college student. Having an invisible disability is like taking on those challenges with our hands tied behind our back. In the words of Batman, it's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. These issues with limited advocacy eventually graduate from our schools into the workplace. According to the American Disability Association website, rights for visible disabilities are quite specific and easily verified. However, an individual with invisible disability has rights that can be more complicated and labor-intensive to achieve. Employees have the responsibility to communicate with their employer about the specific needs of their invisible disability, but often don't. The Journal of Managerial Issues in 2004 reports that one of the most effective methods for changing negative attitudes is to provide new information that challenges existing beliefs. Employers have the responsibility to provide accommodations and to communicate effectively with employees when an accommodation is needed. As told to Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Through the lens of invisible disabilities, rights are as important as the responsibility required to maintain them. These rights and responsibilities shape the global perspectives of invisible disabilities around the world in our schools and workplaces, shared by a lot of us. Don't let the power of invisible disabilities prevent you or a loved one from being a superhero. There's a superhero in all of us. We just need the courage to put on the cape.